So let's have a little lesson on this piece by Francesco da Milano. This is a Ricercare, and of course you can get the free sheet music. Just follow the link under the video. The PDF notation is absolutely free. It has my fingerings on it. You can also purchase a modern tab version of this as well if you like. So a couple of things. A Ricercare is kind of a precursor to the fugue. So it's usually imitative in some ways. So you'll have like a little melodic figure and then it'll be passed between different voices. This particular one isn't outrageously imitative, but it is. It most certainly is. So we can talk about that a little bit. But first thing, as you can see, I'm capoed here, and I also have the third string tuned down to F sharp. And I have a separate video on why we do these things, so you can check that out. There's a link under the video for that as well. But it's pretty straightforward. You just tune the third string to your F sharp, which essentially puts you into lute tuning. So a lot of the English and Italian lute players and continental lute players would use this tuning. And if you put a capo on the third fret, it essentially puts you into the same tuning that they are. That doesn't really matter so much. You could easily play this piece without the capo. But sometimes putting the capo on just kind of gives it a lighter character, mainly just partly because all the pitches are higher. But also it kind of equalizes the guitar. Like sometimes open strings in the guitar sound different because of the nut of the guitar. It sounds a little brighter than fretted notes. So this makes everything kind of sounds fretted, and therefore you get kind of more of a plucky, lutey kind of sound, in my mind anyway. Like lighter. I think it's a little bit more charming. It's not so deep and resonant like the modern Spanish guitar is built to be like. So that's a really nice flavor for this piece. So feel free to do that or don't. But you'll definitely want to use the F sharp tuning because it just makes the piece so much easier. A lot of Renaissance music is in a key, sometimes in this case A major, but in other times it's in like a D major kind of key, and you have a lot of F sharps, which end up being open strings then. So instead of having to fret everything as an F sharp, it's just an open string. And because the lute players played lute and composed on lute, the fingerings work best with their tuning. Now it's not always possible, like some of the German lute stuff, it's in a radically different tuning, and it just doesn't really work on the guitar. You could try, but usually there's so many more strings that you have to make a transcription. In this case though, there's so much music out there that you can just play with that F sharp tuning, so it's definitely worth it. The main thing in this piece that you want to pay attention to is that there's multiple voices, right? So there's two voices throughout. And then sometimes there'll be an inclusion of a third voice. Usually the third voice doesn't last very long in this piece, but the first appearance of the third voice, I guess, is in bar 9 there. Whenever you're dealing with counterpoint, of course, you're looking to connect the voices. At bar 28, you get some real imitative counterpoint. So you get the inner voice first has this line, and then the bass voice, and then the bass voice or the inner voice, depending on how you're thinking of it. Low voice. When you put that together, so it's kind of like a choir, right? And like the sopranos sing a line, and then the tenors do, and then the altos and the basses. So it gets passed around through the choir. And similarly here, you get it passed around between the voices. One really clear section that has some like very clear counterpoint is in bar 66, starting with this D in the bass. With all these running lines on top of it. So bar 60, 66. So the upper voice is the most interesting. But the lower voice, it has such a nice connection. So although there's all this imitative counterpoint and this very lyrical vocal style of delivery, the piece also is kind of dancey, right? So although it's written in cut time in my edition, I'd really just think of it as one beat per bar. 1, 1, 1. Like that. So you're just going to feel it in a very calm, very expansive style of a beat, and keep some of that dance going. You can be a little bit looser than I am. I keep it pretty timely. You can use some rubato in this music, especially if it's connected to your melodic phrasing. So you're welcome to do that. Besides that, I'll just do like a little run through of the piece, going a little bit slower than we did before. So remember, everything on the third string is up 1 fret, so that A is on the 3rd fret. Keeping that lower voice in the thumb really kind of keeps the voices clear, and you can tell when the player is playing one or the other, not just through register, but through kind of the tone quality of the right hand. Really watch for those cadences. Tension, or like suspension, and then the tension of the 7th resolving to the A there. So that's in bar 11. Some imitative scale runs. It's another little cadence there. And then you have the imitative counterpoint. Hemiola there, just it obscures the time signature a little bit, so you get a sense of a different time signature. But just keep your beat, keep everything sustaining, right? Until the cadence, and then you're back on track. Here, this shape, you'll find this hard at first, but it's not that bad. It's fairly secure. You just have to get used to this hand position here. Like, this is one section in particular where the tuning really helps. Cadence to here. Just be careful with your fingering in this section. Play that A with the 2nd finger so you can get the next notes. This bar, bar 69, I use my 2nd finger on the 1st fret so that the 1st finger is ready for that note. If you use your 1st finger there, you'd have to jump it up, so just make sure to use your 2nd finger there. So from bar 68, 1st finger, I do a little ornament when I played it before. Or it obscures I take a little bit of extra time there just because I'm doing a gradual writ at the end there, and then present the last phrase almost as like a little coda. The cadences are so important, so make sure you use the fingering like 2/4 at the end there. So you can hold it all the way until you get the last chord. You can really connect the voices nicely. So we could tear this piece apart a lot more than that and really point out every time he does a little bit of imitation, but just keep your ears open for it. As you play the piece longer and longer, you'll find more little pieces of imitative counterpoint. And but there's lots of things to balance in this equation, so focus on that nice, relaxed but expansive beat, and getting some of the counterpoint to come out, working on your legato lines, connecting voices, and looking clearly for those cadence points, which offer a little bit of relief from the constant activity. So I hope you enjoy the piece, and I hope to do much more of Davellano in the future.